All right. Council administration, we are back from our 10-minute break. Smack dab right on time. That's got to be the first time we're right back on time, which is a good thing. Thank you, administration. We're back live as well as council. Our next item is 7A, bylaw 1025-22, 2023 fees and charges, first, second, and third reading. I believe Mr. DeBlanco, you'll be presenting this evening. So Curtis, you have the floor, please.
Thank you. Before council this evening is a report that seeks 3 readings for the 2023 fees and charges bylaw. Short report, but each year Beaumont's fees and charges are reviewed and updated by each of the departments. Changes are made by these departments based on operational considerations, including cost recovery, and are evaluated for reasonableness comparing rates to other municipalities. Included in the bylaw, which is attachment 1, are the fees and charges references, and that forms part of Schedule A, which is part of the bylaw. These updated rates provide revenue which partially funds these municipal and utility operations. Partially fund the municipal operating budget and fully fund the utility operating budget. And although the approval of the municipal operating budget has been deferred to March 2023, administration still recommends approval of this 2023 fees and charges bylaw. The revenue forecast included in the proposed budget that was presented in November reflect the updated fees, rates, and charges as set out in attachment 1. Should this bylaw be deferred, administration would then update the forecast to maintain services, and this would likely require an increase to the proposed tax levy. So that's the reason why this fees and charges bylaw is recommended to be approved now. The increase in fees and charges, these do assist in providing funding directly for services to residents, businesses, and developers, and reduce the overall impact on property taxes. These proposed increases are to be in place after the 3rd and final reading. And once again, they are reflected in the proposed budget. That concludes my report for the evening, and I'll turn the floor back to council. Thank you.
Thank you, Curtis. I do believe, if I'm wrong, Mr. Winter, correct me, that we do a first reading, ask questions. Second reading is where we debate the bylaw. And then third reading is when we go to unanimous consent to third reading, and we go from there. Is that correct, Ms. Winter, more or less? I got a thumbs up. All right, I got it right. There you go. Appreciate that. So is there a member of council willing to move first reading of this bylaw? Councillor Tessier, Renee, you have the floor.
I have a question first, or do you want to move the first one first?
Move it, please. Thank you.
I'll move that bylaw 1025-22, 2023 fees and charges, a bylaw that established fees, rates, and charges for municipal services be given first reading.
Thank you. We can now ask questions. Ms. Winter, I believe. Councillor Tessier, you have a question?
Yes, sir. Thank you. This might be in regards to land use, but under page 243 of the agenda, it talks about tiny homes. Do we allow tiny homes in Beaumont? Like if I were to buy a lot and just put a tiny home on there?
Ms. Raymond?
Thank you. Through your worship to Councillor Tessier, you could put a tiny home on a lot if you met any of those setback requirements. Yes.
Okay. Can we put a mobile home on any lot if we meet the requirements too?
No. So the tiny home would typically be more like that one that would happen in that garage. The garden suite, that type of thing would be more what that tiny home would be. So not just a standalone tiny home on a big lot.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McGough-Swain. Sam, you have a question. You have the floor.
Yeah, thanks. I have a broad question and then a specific one. The bigger picture question, and maybe just my memory is fading me here, but what I found challenging going through this is in previous years, it kind of showed what the budget, what the fees and services were for the previous year and then where we're moving to. And so unless I'm reading it wrong, I didn't see that this year. And so it's hard for me to look at, where is administration going? Hey, look, we think we want to increase the entry to the rec center by 3%, 5%. I couldn't see those changes. I just saw the number. And again, help me if I'm reading this wrong, but I don't know how I'm supposed to look at this. These are numbers in here, comparing them to previous years. So am I reading that wrong? Have you got any thoughts on that?
Mr. Blanco?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Administration included in the proposed budget document a comparative or some of the more notable fee changes. And then, like I said, there's the percentage increase disclosed in the budget document that shows on things like rec fees and development fees and permit fees. It has been a number of years since we provided kind of that red line version. What I would recommend doing if we're looking for that comparison is having both bylaws side by side and comparing that way.
Okay, yeah, sorry, could you just point me to what we talked about the bigger picture percentage? What 125?
Page 125 in the budget document. Yeah, I think it's like 3% for childcare. Yeah.
Okay, and so thank you. Yeah, I didn't go back and compare that back into the budget. So thanks for answering that. That's good with me. The next specific, and thanks for the heads up here, Council. The next specific question was more around the transit fees there. Obviously we're planning to move into the regional transit system, our card system, etc. We still have that flat $5 fee and then subsequent based on that with tickets and all that sort of stuff, 10 bucks. Do we have the ability to change, like let's say that when the regional transit system comes up and we look at the broader fare system, would we just change our bylaw at that point? How does that work?
Yes, so the bylaw, there is the ability to amend the bylaw mid-year. Even in 2022's year, the bylaw had been updated for certain changes, either to a service or a new fee requiring to be added. So if that were the case, administration would bring back an amended bylaw.
Okay, so pretty straightforward process. If the commission decided, hey, here's a flat rate that we're going to put across the board, then we would just come back and all the municipalities, I imagine, we have to go and update their bylaws just like we would there. Okay, thank you. No, I got no other questions.
Thank you. So we can change any time then, right, Curtis?
That's correct.
Right, anytime we need to change it. Thank you. Councilman Newkirk. Steve, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think on this version of the fees and charges bylaw, the broad sweeping 3% and 5% that was added, is something that we're gonna vote on tonight. My question is, the where do we go from here? How do these increases just show up on the bills for the users? Or do we communicate the changes have been made and they'll be starting on this day? What does that look like for some of the larger user groups in the municipality? How does it just show up, or do we talk to them about it before it shows up? Thank you.
So I'll rely on legislative service to answer this particularly, but we advertise the bylaw and that it's passed on our website. In terms of the user groups, I'd have to defer to, I don't believe we have a representative from Recreation on how they engage the user groups, but I would imagine that these increases are communicated with them.
Yeah, and in absence of an answer on that, what I would say is that, I would hope that some of the main user groups in the community, and, we know who those are from our, the main billings that we do are afforded a heads up anyways, right? I think that an ounce of prevention here probably is likely in order. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. See no further questions. Please. Followed by Councilor Barnhart.
Yeah, thanks. And I think this is a little bit clunky because we didn't dive into this too much. So the concern I have around, the rec center and some of our facilities around the 5% increase, kind of broader theme, like we're obviously trying to encourage people to come in to use our facilities and, be healthy and all that sort of stuff. 5% in here, I assume it's to do with inflation and all those sorts of things. To me, that number seems pretty high. And I just wondered if there was a bit more justification around why 5% increase for those particular activities.
Sure, thanks for the question. I'll give it a shot. I do know specifically on the rec center and recreation fee that there has been, I can't, give the exact number of years, but at least 2 to 3 years where there's been no increase. That being said, operating costs do increase, and
Sure.
therefore, if there's no fee increase and operating cost increases, therefore cost recovery goes down on recreation programs. So trying to meet that level of cost recovery every single year and meet the same level of cost recovery, ultimately fees would need to be increased. So that 5, I don't want to speak for Mr. Shooter, but I believe the intent was this is a kind of a catch-up year to reflect the fact that there's been a number of years where there's been no increase to recreation fees. So I believe the intent going forward would be smaller, more manageable fee increases subsequent to this one.
Yeah, I appreciate the explanation, and I think that speaks to a bigger picture discussion around budgeting generally, right? Around, low to 0% increases and then having to play catch up down the road. So I think we're going to get a lot of questions around that. These are the sort of things that people see, right, and feel in the community. And so that answer really helps me move forward. I still struggle with it, but again, Mr. Seard and the team, they're the experts, right? They know that we're trying to catch up here. And so, I'm okay with it here based on that explanation, but I'll be interested to see the feedback from the community and also user rates, right? If it's, we've talked about it, it's a tough time with inflation for everyone going on, right? And if we're seeing people not use our facilities because of, 5% may not seem like a lot, but over time it definitely adds up. So I'd be interested to see what that 5% increase does. So that's a conversation down the road for Mr. Suter. But I'm good with it, but I'll be watching it, I guess, for lack of a better term. So thanks for the explanation.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Barnhart. Kathy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. To the administration, I'm not sure if I just missed this in the past or if there's something new has been put in here. So on Schedule 5, there's a number of pages. That's planning and development and building permit fees. It says right at the top, there is no cost for based in Beaumont nonprofits and those organizations that may have received funding through the community grants program for items within Schedule 5. Is that new? No, it's always been there. Thank you, Mr. Raymond. I'm just wondering, can you give me an example of which one of these costs might not be applied and to which type of organization? Because for building permits, I'm having some difficulty with that. I know there's temporary permits that organizations need, whether it's like the festivals, Blues and Roots, or Beaumont Night Market. But I'm just wondering, like, which one of these would fall into that category, if you could.
Oh, Ms. Raymond, sorry, your microphone is now on. Sorry.
Thank you. Through your worship to Councillor Barnhart. So if we had, say, the Ag Society and they were doing their Rural Roots Festival or something else like that where they needed to get permits, then those fees would be waived, I believe. Last year, the year before, council had passed a motion regarding this for CVO organizations. And then where it would be applicable would be any fees that we would need to remit. So like Safety Codes Council. So on the building permit fee, if we had something where that was an external fee that needed to be paid, that would still have to be paid, but the remainder of those would be waived if they were Beaumont fees.
Thank you. It is confusing because I know when using the rec center, there were permit fees that had to be paid. And so I don't know when it goes to a third party or when it goes to the city. So it's just very difficult from this presentation to know which ones are waived and which ones are not. So I don't know if I'm having difficulty. I can imagine others might be as well. I wonder if you can maybe at some point clarify that.
Yeah, sure. One thing I could say is that for electrical and plumbing and gas permits, they're actually applied through Superior directly. So then they would pay that fee through there. And then anytime that they would apply to us, we would let them know what those fees are. We calculate them when we talk to the person, the applicant at that time. But we could make that a little bit more clear, maybe with an example or something that went on the website. Yeah.
It would be nice to know upfront because I know budgeting is difficult when you're a volunteer organization, and to hear surprises at the last minute is really difficult to deal with. So I appreciate that. That's my only question. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. See no further questions. I'll ask that we vote on first reading, please. That carries unanimously. Thank you, Council. Member Council willing to move second reading of the bylaw. Councilman Newkirk, Steve.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I move that bylaw 1025-22 be given second reading. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Discussion on the motion. This is where we have a chance to debate the motion or the bylaw in greater detail, but any questions or comments or concerns on second reading? Seeing none, Council, I'll ask you to vote on second reading, please. That carries unanimously. Thank you, Council. And the occasion where we are looking to do 3 readings in one evening, we do now move to consideration for third reading. So as a member of council willing to move consideration for third reading, which must be unanimous to go to third reading on the same evening. Councilor Barnhart.
I'll be pleased to make that motion that that bylaw 1025-22 be given consideration for third reading. Is that the
Thank you.
correct motion? I just want to.
That is correct.
Yep.
That is correct. Thank you. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, council, I'll ask you to vote for consideration of third reading this evening. That also carries unanimously. Thank you, council. At this point, I'll ask council to make a motion to give third reading of the bylaw. Councilor Barnhart.
I move that bylaw 1025-22 be given third reading.
Thank you, councillor. Discussion on the motion. See none, council, I'll ask you to vote on third reading. That carries unanimously. Thank you, council. Next on our agenda are councillor inquiries, responses, and reports. Councillor Van Newkirk, Clean Energy status report was already provided to Councillor Van Newkirk. Any follow-up questions from that, councillor? I think you're okay. Thank you. Are there any councillor inquiries this evening? We made administration. Seeing none, we'll move on our agenda to CAO update. Mr. Schwartz. Oh, Ms. Winter, did I miss something?
Thank you, Mayor. I have 2 counselor inquiries this evening that were sent to me.
Oh, okay,
I
sorry.
have one follow-up, one from Councillor Van Newkirk, and then one for yourself.
Okay. I forgot about myself, sorry. Councilman Newkirk, I guess we'll go with Steve's first. And then we'll come back to CEO update. Oh, sorry, Steve. I hit the button there, didn't come on. Now your mic's on, sorry.
Yeah, thank you to Ledge Services for noticing my oversight here. The follow-up inquiry I had was to the heavy truck traffic. So I had submitted an inquiry previously around heavy truck traffic and received an answer back around road use agreements and such. Subsequent to that, I'm asking to please provide the information on the following. Does the city currently approve and grant road use agreements, RUA, that are proposed through school zones when routes that avoid these sensitive areas are available? Besides sensitive areas, school and playground zones, what other considerations are evaluated when reviewing proposed RUAs? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Appreciate that. If I may, I think I have a councillor. Oh yeah, I forgot about this one. Thank you. My memory is, let's give me 2, Steve. Sorry about that. Please provide information as to the following. In addition to the current $50,000 allocation of City of Beaumont to Beaumont Blues Roots Festival, please provide an estimation of the annual in-kind donations provided to the BBRF by the City of Beaumont, such as the use of the land in Four Seasons Park, use of the city stage, time and activities spent by city office, staff and workers in assisting the BBRF, and any other assistance provided by the city. Thank you, Ms. Winter, for reminding me of that. I slipped my mind entirely. We'll now move on then, if we could, to, sorry, any further councillor inquiries before I go to CEO Schwartz for his update? See none? Mike, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Daniluk, members of council, members of the public. A few items. I'll be as brief as I can. This year, or for 2023, Ledge and Legal Services applied for a grant for an LLS intern, and the grant was successful. So we will have some extra helping hands in our policy and intergovernmental relations area with funding from the province for next year. So that's very positive. The Elan crosswalk is completed. The lighting has been installed. Of course, the painting is going to have to wait until the spring, but that was the one we showed a picture of. I've got a couple pictures of some other stuff here in a second. So that one's up and functional. Outdoor rinks are open for the season with the following, and that includes a new Bellevue outdoor rink with following exceptions. Don Sparrow is not ready because of the ice thickness. The Lions RVs, same thing, because we need a good stretch of cold weather. And the same can be said for Monteley, although I believe they were trying to get it in place before Christmas, temperature permitting. And it certainly looks like the temperature is going to permit. The temporary skate shelter has been installed at Bellevue and it's open for public use. They've also put a porta potty up there. I'm going to show you pictures of the grand opening that was yesterday. So it's looking really good there. Roads teams are proactively addressing snow removal and service levels are being met. Residential snow clearing for priority 3s and alleys started in early December and they'll continue throughout the month, weather dependent, of course, and priority 4s to follow sometime in January unless we get a whole bunch more snow, which we were supposed to get today, but it looks like we didn't get as much. A couple other things. The renewal project is commencing this month at the detachment, which includes replacement of the fire sprinkler system or the piping. The project will run into 2023, but the contractors are on site completing the work. However, the building will remain open and it's business as usual. And the pictures I was referring to are from yesterday, and that's the grand opening celebration that took place. Where the refreshments were provided by Tim Hortons, and we certainly appreciate that. And just one other item, and I had mentioned this to council before, we've been in the process of demolishing that derelict property on 625. The work started today. They started clearing the snow. They knocked one building down, but we should have that all cleaned up here very shortly. So that's a good news project. So thank you very much.
Was provided by Ms. Winter during our break. And I will move that at the January 10th, 2023 council meeting, that by the March 23rd Budget Deliberation Administration prepare a report on pay-as-you-go funding, including the impact of this funding on municipal tax levy and the advantages disadvantages of this funding source. Thank you, Ms. Winter, for drafting that from earlier this evening. Are there any further notice in the motion from council to be put forth this evening for a future council meeting? Seeing none. Thank you. We'll move on to our next item, which is our closed session. So I will ask for a motion to move into closed session. Member councilman, can we move that motion, please? Councilman Cook, Kat, you have the floor.
I move that we move into closed session pursuant to the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, Section 17 and 19 at 8:03 p.m.
Thank you, Councillor. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, council, please vote to move into camera. And that carries unanimously. Thank you.